we have this client who is experiencing these physical symptoms of those things that came up in the whole tank, but they didn't show up.
The question is, where is your client experiencing it and why is it there? And so
why you don't diagnose things.
So this is super interesting because of this.
I ran the comprehensive analysis scan and the number one thing that came up was candida. The second thing that came up was a hormone balancing signature and then a metabolic signature. And it was just really funny. Like the top four things were literally what she listed the day before to me. And looking at the results too, in both the comprehensive analysis, the general support scan, and an emotion scan that I ran, not a single item came up as like in our strict physical delusion. And like 20 items came up in the general support scan, and not one came up in the physical delusion. Comprehensive analysis, about 15. Not one came up in the physical delusion. Emotion, again, not one. And so I'm just curious your thoughts. I mean, I gave her my thoughts on it, but I want to know your thoughts on this. So we have this client who is experiencing these physical symptoms of those things that came up in the whole tank, but they didn't show up in what we would say is the physical delusion. And so tell me about that.
So this is super interesting because of this webinar that we just did today with Lauren, and where she talks about that the question is, where is your client experiencing it and why is it there? And so she does have these very physical symptoms, but yet if, looking at the delusion in the traditional way that practitioners will look at it, they would think that none of that was physical. And one of the things that she was saying is that those can be generational things or miasmic things that the person is dealing with a little deeper in, but they're still experiencing it, and so it's a great example of why we don't want practitioners to just focus on X's and V's as if they are the only things that matter, because they're not. Like your client is experiencing their life, and it can be from whatever source it is, whether it is a nutrient deficiency or it's something that they are emotionally dealing with or generationally dealing with, whatever it is, they are still having that full experience of it.
Yeah. I'm also curious your thoughts on, for me, it was really confirming of like why you don't diagnose things, or like you use it to find like validating evidence that they have or don't have certain things. Because obviously she took it as like,
oh, I have everything.
I have candida and I have blah, 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 right? But for me, I almost saw it as like that none of it was actually showing up as like she needs anything, like physically.
Yeah.
She just needs information. And the body is going to do whatever it needs to do. Obviously, there's things she could do, diet-wise and lifestyle-wise, but I'm just curious your thoughts on that aspect too. So seeing those things and they're lining up clearly with what she's noticing as physical problems.
Yeah.
But why do you still, even if they're matching up, why should you still avoid
diagnosing
or even going down that path or even insinuating that type of stuff?
Yeah. So that's a little, it's kind of hard in that aspect because they are having these experiences and you want to validate, that, you are experiencing this. I think the key as far as phrasing, the key is in how you phrase it. Instead of saying, oh, yes, you do have candida, you do have hormone problems, you do have, I don't remember the other things you said, but because that is the confirmation. Yeah, you do have these problems. But instead, maybe just talking about, okay, yeah, I know that you're having these, you are experiencing this because she just said it, and so let's see how we can support your body in working through this process and support you emotionally as well in addressing these, so that, and then talk about the lifestyle things, or talk about what are these, what is she experiencing? How are her days going? Or how, those other things aside from, like, why does she feel like she's having hormonal imbalances? What is it that's actually going on that would express itself as a possible hormone imbalance? And so I think that's where I would place the focus. It validates them, but at the same time, it doesn't, you're not using the words, yep, I can see you have that and that and that and that because it showed up on the test.